Good morning. Welcome to Brave Indigenous Conversations with Joan Jack. This morning I have a special guest who I'm going to invite in a moment, and we're going to begin with the reading that I found quite soon after starting the podcast that I just love. An invitation to a brave space. Together we will create brave space because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. Mickey Scott B. Jones. So I just love that. When I first heard it recently, I was like, oh, I love that. So I'd like to start with giving Dolores some space to introduce herself, and then we'll get into conversation. Over to you, Dolores.
Okay. Good morning, Joan, and to everyone listening. Technology is a wonderful thing. Telling Joan that it's really remarkable that I'm here in Montana and she's in Canada, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and not in a city, but Joan is in the area where they have to be helicoptered in, and it's wonderful that we can make this connection, and I thank Joan for providing this type of forum for our people, any people, to be able to hear each other and to express freely our feelings and our opinions, our rights as especially as Indigenous people. I'm enrolled in the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. I'm Salish and Pend d'Oreille. My reservation is in Western Montana. And I have, my husband is Assiniboine Grovant, and we have lived here at Fort Belknap Reservation. This reservation is about 23 miles from the Canadian border in central Montana. I moved over here and I've lived here about 46, 47 years. Our family, we have 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter, and I have 8 grandchildren. Our family has always been very active, you know, we're from the 60s generation. So from that age, it was finding our identity and speaking out about who we are. And when we moved over here, it was really important for us to be part of our children's education, to get on school board. My husband coached, and then he held many leadership positions. I in the beginning, I wanted to, and I did. I wanted to be a housewife. I wanted to raise my children, and we only had one income, and it was a great time. We had to. It was a lot of ups and downs. Had to watch our budget, and had to. We didn't go on a lot of trips, but the things that we did as a family, and a lot of volunteerism in our community and the tribe. So, and the years went by very, very quickly. You know, when I came over, we got married. I was 31 and he was 30. Today I'm 78. In May I turned 78, and he passed away right before Thanksgiving of last year. We went through really hard times, challenging times when Joan was talking about being being brave. your brave moments, your brave time that you, as you pass through life. And I saw my husband, who is a very vibrant person, leader, and he really struggled to maintain his dignity as he was in and out of the hospital. My family, we kept him home as much as possible to care for him. And then we're about 150 miles from a big hospital north of us, and then south, we're about 200 miles from a hospital. So when we have to travel, all of those things took a lot of time and energy, and mostly and especially dedication to our family to be together. And when my husband retired, I want to give you a background too for myself. The Department of Justice came to the county and they talked to us and about filing a lawsuit on the county to have the Native Americans have a right to have a position as a county commissioner. So we got involved with that, and eventually I ran for office. I had never run for anything. My husband encouraged me to. I won the election, and I've been in office for 21 years.
Wow. Can I just interject there, because the audience may not have the background that you and I have. So what I'm understanding you to be saying is that in the United States, the reservations are within the state of, your reservation is within where you live, is within the state of Montana. But within the state of Montana, there's a county. Like in Canada here, we have provinces and territories. So you have counties within the states down there. And then the county has its own government for everyone who lives in that area of land, including to represent, including those living on the reservation. So that your husband's tribe went to court, or which tribes went to court to fight to have a specific seat in the county government that would be occupied by a Native American from the reservation within the county. Is that correct?
Right, and the way the lawsuit is either Native American or someone from the district, which would be the Fort Belknap Reservation. This went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they denied the county. So I was in office. I've been in office all this time, and I always considered it a great privilege for me to be able to, at my age, and my husband had retired and then he had health issues, for me to contribute in that way to our family. And I've always asked, as I moved along in my age, is to look at what is the purpose? Why I want to have a purpose in doing this. And I wanted to do more. I had a purpose in raising my family, and everyone had left the home, and I wanted, and I really didn't know what my purpose was. So I have been very satisfied in my position. Politics is difficult. In Montana, we have legislators from each reservation in our legislative government, and the reservations are making inroads and having more elected officials in the counties. So it's an exciting time because history is in the making. They're making history and showing our children. So, so for my story, the purpose of this for me is my own personal story. When I wanted to talk to Joan was about myself, that I was, and I'm still working from home. And as my husband's health got worse, and my children, especially one son, he worked around the clock to care for his dad. And it was something that we chose to do, and we loved him. But you don't realize the toll it takes on you in doing that. It's because you're letting go. You're letting go of that loved one as time passes, and you're and not having any medical background, not knowing how not knowing we'd look at the medicines, and every time you go to the doctor there were new instructions, and so it's very challenging time, and but we got through it. And when my husband passed away, and I was very logical about him and about myself, that that I tell my children, we're aging, and this is as you pass through life, this is what happens as we cross over into as we pass away, and that was logical. What and I've had grief in my life before, and so I thought I was handling it really well. I saw that I was slowing down. I would go to work, and I would be, it was hard for me to get out of the car. And I thought, well, I'm tired. And I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't able to hold my food down very well. But still I kept thinking, I will get better, and I'm okay. Well, one day I went to work, and I had to use a cane. And when I was coming out of the courthouse, that was in January, I barely made it to my car. I could barely walk. And I made it, and I had to lift my legs up into the car to get in. And I knew something was wrong. I thought something else was happening. So eventually I diagnosed myself, because one day I bent down and I felt like my back went out. So I went to the chiropractor, and the chiropractor worked on me. I went to a couple sessions, but I was losing strength in my legs and my arms. When I would lift up a bowl, like a ceramic bowl, to put it on the shelf, I couldn't get it up there. And when I showered, I couldn't lift my arms up. And it was getting so frightening. So I quit the chiropractor. Then I went to Indian Health Service and talked to them, and so they referred me to a neurologist in Great Falls. So I went there, and they started MRIs, CAT scans. The MRIs were they were kind of I felt like they were not usual MRIs. I had to be. They lasted like 6 hours being still. Just yes, very. They had a couple of them that were very long, and then they sent the results to the Mayo Clinic. And all this time, I was really nervous, because I was wondering about multiple sclerosis, or what had happened to my health. And one time I got very sick. I felt my stomach, and I felt really weak, and I went to the ER at IHS, and I told them, I said, I don't feel right with my stomach, and so the one doctor said, you're really dehydrated, just looking at me. And they gave me fluids, they did a CAT scan on my stomach, and it came back and said, malnutrition. You don't have very much in your stomach. And I thought that's true, because sometimes at night, I couldn't eat during the day, and sometimes at night I felt hungry, but I had been on such a schedule of going, taking care, working. I didn't allow myself to even enjoy or give enough time to eat. So I thought, well, good information. And even with getting the fluids in me, I felt stronger. IHS also referred me to physical therapy. I started my physical therapy. When I went in there, I was on a wheelchair. They wheeled me in. My granddaughter wheeled me in, and the physical therapist wanted me to stand up and just walk down and then walk back. Mm-hmm. The physical therapist had to help lift me up. I couldn't get out of the chair on my own. And so I took a few steps, and that's how it went for a while. I could barely lift my foot. She would show me things, and it was very small building blocks at a time. And I've been in physical therapy for 3 months. I have 3 more sessions to go. I finally went through a muscle biopsy. They did this on my leg to see, to check there, because the MRIs didn't show anything, thank God. But so I did the muscle biopsy and got the report, and the report was malnutrition, that some of that in my muscles, some of them had died. And then the doctor said, the good news is that there's regeneration, that they're coming back. And I have to have sense of humor. And I told him, I said, well, first place, I'm not a very muscly person. I said, I have not exercised all my life. The last time I exercised probably was in high school in PE class. I should have been doing more. So I said, my poor muscles, I have to work on them. So at this time I had been in physical therapy, and he said, you're really doing well. And he was kind of like a holistic doctor too. And he told me, he said, you suffered a great loss in losing your husband. He said, you told me that. And I said, yes. And I said, I didn't have the energy to really fully, you have the brave moments, but to fully grieve. It took a while for me to really cry and to be, and to acknowledge what happened, to acknowledge this loss. And as I got stronger, I did let go. I let go of those emotions I was holding in. And and Joan said, the brave moments, I would like to add to the word to brave is the healing brave moments. When you're in grief and you're feeling loss, it can be a time of despair, like struggle through a battle. But as we are in recovery, that's the other word that I really am hanging on to, is in recovery. The recovery is in my grief, in my tears, in my body, that before I got the diagnosis, I feel like I was going downhill.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what happened. I knew something was wrong. And then when I found out, in the meantime, I had been doing exercises and building myself up. The physical therapist told me, she said, you're in recovery. And I said, yes. I said, I'm working upwards now, and I can feel it. I have a goal. There's a certain type of machine that I was working on. It has, for 10 minutes, it's like you're rowing and your legs and arms. And when I first started, I did 200 steps for 10 minutes. The last time I was on the machine, I have worked up to 900 steps. Every time I go, I'm increasing, working very hard. So even at my age, you know, you can never let your body rest. You have to keep your body moving and exercising. And so, and I think what caught my ear on this podcast, Joan was talking to one of the people she interviewed, and they were talking about, seems like they were talking about getting old or feeling aches and pains. And like I just told Joan, with her age, and I was listening and I thought, well, yes, but you're still young. I feel like you're entering into that elder status. There's more to come. And for me, as I have, when this happened to me, it was terrifying. It happened quickly. And I can now lift my arms over my head, which I couldn't do before, you know, and I want to be able to, and now I walk without any walker or cane. I want to be able to move with my grandkids. I am fighting. I think as you age, you're fighting for your independence. You're fighting for your purpose every day, no matter what it is. You want to, because just as Joan is now, and her viewers here, the people in her camp, they all have a purpose there. They're all active. They're all contributing to live together and love and be together. But as you age and you feel yourself dropping out, you feel like if you do a lot and you get tired, it takes a longer time to recover, rest it up. And it takes more strategy. If you're going to travel or do something, you have to figure out how you can do it so you don't fall, or that you're able to do it within your limitations. And I think the other thing that really impacted me during this time was feeling isolated, feeling lonely. And so so I'm on Facebook, and then I'm on the phone. Like I say, I'm working from home. But I miss the spontaneity of just getting in the car, walking in the office. Last weekend was the first time I went into a grocery store. I haven't shopped for a long time, and I was in there for a while, and I was tired. I'm working on my endurance right now, and what I want to get across is, in politics and in our life, people are always mentioning the elderly and the children. And I feel like the elderly, it is good that they are mentioned and they're considered, but the elderly have to have a voice. They cannot lose their voice. They have to talk about their own feelings about aging, their own feelings to their family, about their needs, and they right now in Montana, over 10 senior care facilities have closed. The legislature is not providing enough money daily for each patient to be there. So even to tribal governments on the reservations in Montana, maybe there's one reservation who has a senior care facility available. In many instances, our elders have to travel off the reservation to a senior care facility. And that's very sad. So we cannot give up on uh, uh, stating how important it is that our needs, our age group has to be on the agenda of our tribal governments, our state governments, national governments. We're a very important part of the population.
Yeah.
So this has been, it all ties in, and we also practice our, traditional beliefs. And I was given a lot of our Sundance lodges, big medicine lodges are happening right now here in Montana on different reservations. And I was given medicine, came and they prayed for me and gave me some medicine. So every day I would drink a cup of the medicine, and I would pray that to the spirit and the medicine and to whoever prepared it from long time ago, to thank them and to thank Mother Earth for providing those that medicine. And and when you're so busy, you don't have time to reflect, because you're always doing to get your tasks done. That's the other blessing I've gotten out of being ill, is I've had to be still and think and heal. And in my prayer too, I thought about Mother Earth, and I thought the seeds, every part in our Mother Earth, our water, everything, they're being killed. They're being attacked by our environment. We're not taking good care of it, and we depend on it. And it's just like our bodies. We have to be able to. I'm counting on, I don't know how many of my little muscles are growing, and I pray for my body that as it's being built up, I don't know how far it will go, but I need to take better care of me. We take care, women too, especially women. We take care of our family. We take care of so many other things in our lives, but we have to take care of ourselves. Men, we expect a lot from our men, but I see that what has happened with my peer group, a lot of our men have heart issues. A lot of them pass away before the women, and they're strong, but they're also very fragile as they age. And so we need to, and during this time, I have, I'm on vitamins, vitamin B12, vitamin B complex, magnesium. I had hardly ever even looked at a vitamin before. And so now I am in my diet, with meat, with fish, chicken, a lot of protein, protein drinks. And everything I put in there in me is to, and I'm praying, is to build myself up. And the spiritual part too. And to, and our caregivers, those people who are helping us, they have to slow down to help us. And so, and I told Joan too, I said, so as you age too, when you're younger, I was thinking about this, when you're younger, you plan for your career, you plan for a family, then you're planning for retirement. The same thing is with aging. It just doesn't happen. So my husband and I, we had talked about a will. I'm working on mine now. And we're not rich. We don't have a lot to give, but I want my children to know my thoughts. Just recently, I told them, I said, from being from another reservation, I wasn't sure where I would be buried. My husband, we have a family cemetery just right up the hill here. And I thought about it and made a decision. I said, I will be buried by him, by his grave. And in that, living here over 46 years, and my husband has always told me that I always felt like he welcomed me here and made a home, made it a safe place, and this is where I want to be. And so, as you go, and I think a lot of families face that because due to intermarriage and geographically, we come from different areas, and where do we want to go at the end?
I loved, if I could interrupt you, I asked Dolores's permission if I could interrupt her because she's clearly an elder and a beautiful woman, and I'm just mesmerized when you talk. I just love listening to you, and I said, but it's like cultural faux pas for me to like interrupt you, but can I do that? And she said
Yes,
yes.
yes,
Sure. So I was really touched the other day when we were visiting, when you were sharing about being married into another tribe. And like you're talking about it a bit now, like in the end where you want to be buried. But I was really touched when you were talking about how your decision about where you want to be buried is based on how your husband stood by you and picked you. Can you share that a little bit? Do you remember?
yes. My first marriage, I had ended in divorce, and we had one son. My husband was Black. He was one of the first Black students in one of the schools here in Montana, and very good person, very good person. He's an educator. He was a legislator in the state of Nevada. And but when my oldest son, he and I were together, and when I met my husband, his nickname is Jack. When I met Jack, that was my main concern, is how we would be treated. How there's discrimination, and then moving to a small town, I caught sometimes I was concerned about how we would be received, even to another tribe, to that area. And he told me, he said, in getting married, he said, I would look at you differently if we weren't. And he said, you're, for me to go with him. And I always kept my eye on him, that that's the reason I'm here. That's the reason. That's the reason for our family, our home. But the bad part of it is I've been through lots of recovery and went through a lot of spiritual groups and recovery for my healing, and codependency. One time, Jack and we had an argument, and I was walking down the road with a good friend, a counselor, and I was telling her I'm upset with my husband, and she told me, she said, if you had neon lights, if you saw neon lights up there, who would you see? I said, Jack, my husband. And I thought, he's the one I'm talking about. And she said, don't you see yourself? And so, and that's why I said for him he was in office and all the things that he did. And then when it was my turn, and when I ran for office the fourth time, and he was upstairs, and he was getting weak, and I went in there and I told him, I said, Jack, I said, I made it. I found out through the election I made it. And he started crying. And we held each other, and I said, it's okay. It's okay. And I thought, we have traveled through many, many kinds of things in our lives, and have helped each other, and to be healthy, and with our children, and that he that he had his health issues. And for a while, I forgot my health issues. I really did. If I was really sick, I think at IHS I had a little folder. My file was really thin because I didn't go over there very much, maybe except to have a baby when I was younger, to have a child. But I was missing my checkups and annual checkups and my children. And so at this late stage in my life, I really encourage all of our people, male and female, to take care of yourselves. When I'm sitting here watching TV and I lift up my arms like 20 times through therapy, or I'll lift up my legs. I have a kitchen table here, and I started out by walking 2 times around the table. Then I went up to 5 times. Yesterday, I thought, I'm kind of getting lazy. I better walk. And I went 35 times, 35. And I thought if I could reach 40 times. And my kids will tell me, Mom, are you, don't give up. And sometimes I do. I think, when do you, as you age and as in your lifetime, when can you ever just really just let go and just sit? I'm doing that. And the difference in my recovery is that it's a relaxing letting go. Before, when you're exhausted and you rest, you're just out. It's like a sleep that is fatigue. Now, when I'm resting, it's more, it's a restful time. Nice. I enjoy my rest. Yes. So there have been, and I don't know what else, Joan, if you.
Well, I was thinking in the time we have left, Dolores, I'd love to hear, like, in your service being elected as a part of the state government, with the county, what are your, maybe 1 or 2 of your most memorable events that you've been involved in, representing your tribe at the county level? Like, I just think you're so inspirational. For 20 years, for how many elections you won. Yeah.
Right. I think when the first thing was going into office, with the Department of Justice lawyers, there was one lawyer I became friends with. And so when I was going to be sworn in at the courthouse, she flew back in, and she was told from her bosses that she really shouldn't have these type of personal friendships, or, and to leave that area, not to cloud it with this kind of friendship. But she flew back in, and the tribe here had they have a radio station, and they were set up in the courthouse. When I was going there that morning, my little grandkids, 2 little granddaughters, they had little shawls, and we forgot the shawls. We had to turn back and get their shawls. And my sons, and by in Indian way, I had some other sons there, and they had a drum group. And I thought, yes, I want that drum group in the courtroom. They came in, and it was kind of an environment that was not very friendly because they had lost the lawsuit. And so they set up, and when I was sworn in, my knees were shaking. I just felt, because that was the first time in history to have Native American be on the commission, and to have a woman, white woman, Indian woman, any kind of woman. And I just felt shaky, and then they did the honor song. From my reservation, a councilwoman came over and gave the tribal flag from there, and then from Fort Belknap, they presented their tribal flag. For over 21 years, behind my desk, I have the flag sitting up there in our office. Many of our people had, someone said, Dolores, the only times our people are in this courtroom is for trials, not for an event like this. And the other thing that makes me happy being in office is, I would be sitting there and I'd look at the door and someone would be peeking in, someone from Fort Belknap, and I'd wave them in. And they had never been in there. They had never been in that office. The other white commissioners and their constituents were very familiar with all the other elected officials' offices, the courtroom. Their children visit the offices. And so for now, our people come in and tell them sit at the table. And if they have any issues with the sheriff, legal system, and if they want to turn in a letter on an elected official, another elected official, I've told them I'll stand by you and we'll sit down and have a meeting. We work for you, not, and
I had another question. I was curious, because you're representing the county, you're elected as a county representative for everyone who lives in that area, regardless of race. And then how do you work with the tribal government?
Right. So the tribal government, they have their council and the president and vice president. I have made it a point right now. Yesterday I was on the phone and voted, for our support letter for their water settlement bill. All the other tribes have completed their negotiations for their water rights. This was the last tribe that it's moved on to Washington, D.C. to Congress. It's not complete yet, but it moved out of the state and the counties and state of Montana.
What is the bill about? What is the bill about, Dolores? Tell us a bit about what the bill is about, the settlement.
Well, you have a compact, the water compact, and that was ratified in the state of Montana, and then they put their conditions in there, the kind of committees they set up, and that was done earlier. So the bill itself is like a negotiations. They put in there what lands they want to be if they want to be paid for those lands, or how those lands will be included. The water projects. This bill will be almost $1 billion.
So back it up some more, because we don't know everything that's in your experience, in your mind. What do you mean a compact?
It's like the first document on the water that all the tribes do.
So
it's with the state of Montana.
Okay, and is it water that flows through the reserve, or is it water in your tribal territory, or what water are you talking about?
Right, it's in your area, and by treaty, historically, if the people use the certain area for their resource, and then so the tribe negotiates and says we claim that rights. So now it'll be in Congress. And what I want to say for myself in this area, for election, our county has been sued for me to get in, and then we were sued for another election situation. So election rights for tribes is very is really always on the forefront. For me, in my job, I have been in and out of the tribal chambers to come in and visit the council, and as we're talking, I have people from the tribe or even other tribes on my email address, and I let them know what is happening, any kind of developments in certain areas. Sometimes we have the senators' aides come to our office, and I contact different groups here on the reservation and tell them they can come in, talk to them directly about different issues. And because what's been exciting for me is that sometimes tribal members, I believe, will see themselves as tribal members in tribal government. But as our people are going into county, and I hope more would become a mayor of a town, a city, or going into state legislate, being a state senator or representative, I tell our people, you now have other doors to enter into and sit at the table with these representatives, because they represent you too. And also for getting information. Sometimes if they can't acquire the information from one government, county government operates differently too, and they have access to information. And if I can get a report and give that to a tribal member, I tell them you have every right to as much information as I have. So that's been exciting for me to serve the people like that.
The tribal governments, because that seat you're filling is there because you won in the courts. The tribe sued and won the right to have one seat be elected for a tribal representative, a tribal person or tribal representative. And so do the tribes see you as like, do they use you in a good way? Like, or do they see you as having been absorbed by the body politic and it's not turned out to be the way it was, or how is it going?
I think we could do a better job of it for all governments. In using Facebook when the legislative session is on, like in the capital here, Helena, and you have an Indian caucus there. You have 7 or 8 senators and Indian representatives and senators. It's I see the need for, and we have bills that affect our area that we need to collaborate more so that voting bloc and the constituents are aware of what's going on. Now, one thing that's sad is there's so many other issues affecting our people for housing, poverty, health, so many other areas, grief. And so during a campaign, I always feel really awkward in going to a constituent, and I know I have about 10-15 minutes with that person to tell them what I believe, why I want their vote, why it's necessary, because I know that day of election, I look at that person and I think, I don't know if you have enough money for gas. I don't know if you can get away from your home to vote. And if there's a way that we can help, because you're very important. And I think even nationally, people have become apathetic. When you see in the United States with Trump, with the Democrats and Republicans fighting, and you're caught in the crosshairs and you see them battling, and mostly it's for the wealth and the power. You as a little person, you're trying to figure out, do I really matter? How can I make that purpose? How can I be included? One thing that I've learned is that for the state of Montana, they have a senior citizens group. They're a very strong group, white group. And again, for each level for our people, we're still developing. We're newcomers into this political process. When we were, my husband and my family were one of the first ones to be elected on the school board, and it was resisted. They didn't welcome that. And I remember when we went to constituents and asked them to vote. I remember even one relative told me, she said she had never really voted, and she said, "How does my hair look? Do I look okay?" He said, "You look great. Get over there. We need you to vote, and we'll babysit your kids. We'll what are the issues? You know, they need to have that broken down because people and so and for some tribes now, like the Crow Reservation, Bighorn County, and the Blackfeet Reservation, Glacier County, they are getting a lot of Native American Indian elected officials, their sheriff, their attorney, commissioners, clerk and recorder. And
Wow.
I had, the other thing is when you get into office, I didn't have anyone to fall back on to call someone up and say, what is it? I have a question about being a commissioner. I have a question. This has come up. And one fellow, I forget, I don't know how in the heck I got linked up to him, was a fellow, a Crow from Bighorn County. And I called him, and he mentored me, and I never met him. And he said, how many Indians do you have in the courthouse? I said, just me. And he said, we're ahead of you, Dolores. You're about 20 years behind us. And I said, and that was okay. I thought, well, it's and so Crow Fair. You're familiar with Crow Fair?
I hear these words, but not intimately. Yeah, go ahead.
It's one of the biggest powwows gatherings in Montana, and so that's in Bighorn County, and so I went and I told people, I said, when you go to Crow Fair, if you stop at their courthouse, so I did. I visited there, and I was looking for this commissioner to thank him, and I went in there, and their clerks, their custodians, their elected officials, you could hear them all at different hallways speaking the Crow language.
Wow.
I thought, wow, my gosh. And so I talked to him, and very kind person. Blackfeet, they just by enrollment, by their voters, number of voters, they are making great strides in their elections and taking county offices. And so I believe that someday I would like to see us county officials or even your state officials, because it's very lonely in these positions, because you don't have your people around you working with you. And it would be good to visit each other and share experiences, to talk about what has gone on. I think there, in some instances, we have made inroads, but because of the politics, I think that it is getting more treacherous. I think tribes need to really, we need to communicate, and for our people, because we're losing ground. We need these voters, and they need to see results, not just the person getting in. They need to see the results, and so it's and our children. The other day, I told my old grandkids, we were in this local town here, and they've never had an Indian mayor, and right now, 50% of the elected voters in this town, it's a border town, 50% are Native American. It's rising. More Indians are moving in there. And I told one of my grandkids, I said, they live in this little town. And I told them, I said, I want you to think about being the mayor. You could be the mayor. I said, I don't know if I want to be the mayor. I said, well, just think about that. And I told the other one, I said, we've never had an Indian governor in the state of Montana. Just think about that you could be the governor.
Awesome.
And Yes. And for me, for my family, I came from my family was very poor, a lot of dysfunction. And, I, it's amazing that I am, have this position. It surprises. I really thank the Creator. There's a biblical reference. It's in the Bible. And as I've attended meetings, spiritual, whatever, I've always carried some. One is the first will be last, and the last will be first.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking I was one of the lasts, probably,
Mm-hmm.
because my family, where we're from, when we were younger, maybe even the Indian people didn't think. They were wondering what would become of her. And so it's very, you never know what surprises our Creator has for us at any age. And then for our children, and we have to
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
we have to
Go ahead.
continually work for them, because in
I'm doing my podcast, Bonnie.
My daughter. I've raised persistent children.
with the politics, and especially with the Republican agenda in the United States, for Indian people, some of the political people that I'm around, they don't like the grizzly bear. They don't like the wolves. They don't like, they believe in the pipelines. They believe in energy. Their agenda is for developing resources, natural resources. And this year in Montana, some of the legislators came out and said they don't believe that reservations should exist. They don't like big government. Well, Department of Interior and for tribes is federal government, and they're very anti things like that. And so I've had to hold my ground with them, and not lose my dignity, because I thought I will not cross the line with you. I'm a woman, Indian woman, and some little remarks would be made in the beginning. One constituent came in and he didn't get his way, and he said, well, he stood in front of the desk in our office and he said, well, if I wore braids, there'd probably be a double standard here if I wore braids. And I've told people, if they make remarks, I said, you catch me off guard, and if you want to go there, I will go there and address it. And so, but I thought I will not. I don't go to your level of violence in my language, profanity, holding grudges. My husband did not operate that way. I had some very good mentors, and we will address the issues and keep it on the table. But we need to call it and to answer back. So, I think for me was going into office, and then just every day being able to. It's exciting being able to serve people and to learn. You're always learning.
Yeah. Well, look at that. Our hour is gone now. It went fast. So I'd like to offer you the opportunity to just make a closing comment, and then I'm going to make a closing comment, and we'll end for this time.
Okay.
So what's your last word on this stuff this morning?
I guess my closing word is our great love and compassion for each other, for ourselves. Just last night, I talked to an elder, and her husband is very ill. They're older. They were very young and vibrant, and she called late last night, and I could just feel her anguish. And I thought, we need to hold each other up high all the time to each other. And our elders were living longer, and but in living longer, sometimes we have more responsibility. Our older people are taking care of grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They're not the ones who go on a vacation. They can't afford a lot for themselves. They're always providing for others. And I think we have to teach our children that, yes, that's important for them to be on the receiving end, but they really need to hold that they need to stop and look at the elders, and to whether it's a hug, kiss, getting a person water, doing their dishes, visiting, just as you're doing, Joan. You're giving me time to talk about this, because I am in I would always talk about the elders. I think for a while I didn't include myself, or getting older. I didn't say old, older. And it finally took a while to fit myself in these shoes and say, that's me. I've arrived. And my son told me, he said, well, Mom, what are you doing? When get on that podcast and talk about your experience? And I told him, I said, well, it's not like I have 20 years left to do it. I said, I better do it soon. I better get it done. And
Well,
what an opportunity. Thank you, Joan. Thank you.
No problem. Now that we've got this figured out, Dolores, in a few months from now, I'll have to have you back, because I think my experience, like, we've had personal conversation on the side, and you're amazing, and you've lived such a full life, and we've had 3 private conversations now, and each time I leave the conversation thinking, wow, am I ever glad I heard her say that, So I think you have a lot to offer the world, just like we all do, and especially our elders, because I'm far, far less diplomatic than you. And I think that it's good for me to see how to present a message with such grace. I experience you as very graceful and diplomatic, and that's important. And I still heard, between the lines, everything that you're saying. And I'd like to have, maybe 6 months from now, come back again. And I want to dig deeper with you on, like, serving 20 years in a white government. There's a lot there to share. And for us in Canada, for us to learn about the American Indian experience, because we obviously don't have that experience. So my final words are, I decided I love laughing, because we all Indigenous people, that's our best thing we love doing, is laughing. And so I decided at the very beginning of the podcast that one of the things that Brave Indigenous Conversations with Joan Jack was going to be about was about earrings, because I have a serious earring addiction. And so this morning I am wearing, it's very sad. These are representing all of our murdered and missing Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit. We're all wearing red earrings now. It's sad, and I could do a whole podcast on that, like how we I don't know. Anyway, these earrings were made by my Tlingit sister. I've been adopted into a Tlingit family, Jean-Ann Carlick, and she's an amazing beater, and she made these. And so these are Jean-Ann's earrings. Thank you.
Beautiful.
All right, I'm going to hit end, and when I hit end, Dolores, we'll still be able to talk to each other like we did at the beginning.
Okay.
Thank you for listening, and if you're listening on the replay, please share.
Thanks, Joan.